Thanks very much, everyone. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a humble property owner, manager, developer. I'm not into all the technical jargon. I call it as I see it. I'm retired, so I don't have to care anymore. But I love the technology and I love it. So today I'm going to tell you about the journey. And not all of it demonstrates that I know it all, but you'll see that as we go through. So what happened is we at Dexus, and I'm now wearing a hat I used to have, so I'm not speaking on behalf of them, but when I was at Dexus, we had consolidated 5 sites in the city of Sydney over the space of about 8 years in an absolutely fabulous location. We went to a design competition and we were looking at how we could build one of the best buildings, if not the best building in Sydney. And so during that process, I talked to a number of people. One of them was a guy called John McCarthy, who was the chairman of the Australian Construction Foundation, a number of other things. And this is back in 2006, so before ACMA was in existence. And we talked about what we can do. And he talked to me about 3D design. And I thought, this is interesting, and we talked about what you could do with it. And so what I did was I sent my head of development off to Hong Kong to go and look at a building in Hong Kong that was being done using 3D technology, and that was the Swire building. We talked to the university in Hong Kong, we talked to the university in Queensland, and we basically sat back and said, well, what does this do for us if we adopted it? So, what was I looking to accomplish by embracing this technology? And this is what I thought about in making the decision. One, I'm going to be able to reduce clashes. And as a simpleton, I'm just thinking, okay, ceiling space, air conditioning ducts, sprinkler heads, lighting boxes. You know, you do a set of 2D plans and when you get up there, you figure out you've got them in the wrong place. And I think if you eliminate that, that's great. It's going to save a lot of time. It's going to save a lot of, I've started building and then I've got to pull it apart and redo it. So I save materials, I save labour, I increase productivity. I also increase morale on the site because people aren't pulling it apart and rebuilding it. So people think they're moving ahead as opposed to moving backwards. That will then lead to reduced construction costs. It'll reduce my time and therefore reduce my interest bill. I'm a winner, I can't lose. The guys said it's going to cost me, I don't know, ballpark, an extra 100 grand to embrace the technology. That was all I needed to do. It's a big enough project, get on with it, right? I know some people were saying, what sort of analysis did you do? It wasn't scientific, guys. It was, intuitively, it's going to be a good thing. And that was why I did it. But what I learnt through the process was I had bought a lot more than I thought I was buying, right? And even today, I was fortunate enough to go to a dinner last night with a lot of guys who are right in this field, and I'm sitting there thinking, I know a fair bit, I know nothing. The complexity and the capability of this stuff is huge, and it's fantastic, and the issue is you've got to get the message across because the owners don't know it's there, right? And it is hugely valuable, and that's what I want to talk about today. So, moving on, let's just talk roughly through the site. We started out with a site here on the city. The site was disaligned to the harbour view. So here you see the harbour is down here, the street grid towards the harbour is there, the street grid back here is there. So we had a site. So Architectus in conjunction with Ingenhovens in Germany came up with the idea, rather than doing a square boxy, we did a design competition, so rather than do a square boxy rectangular building, let's do a building that you can rotate on the site, and so tried that with a box, didn't work, but if you did the ellipse, you got the bigger floor plate, and then you were able to do the view corridors, and so you can see here all the different view streams between all the different buildings. And so that's why we ended up sort of with that design. And I've got to tell you, we had a design competition, and there were 5 of us on the panel. It was a blind competition. We had no idea who put them in. We just walked into the room, we saw the models. It took us all of about 2 minutes each, and we all said, yeah, that's it, right? And I've got to tell you, I also owned Australia Square, and I'm not the biggest fan of Australia Square because I struggle with the round building. I get lost walking around the core. But anyway, so it surprised me, but I loved it, as did the rest of the panel. So moving right along here, what we ended up doing is elliptical design with this heart-shaped atrium in the middle and fairly significant floor plates, but you'll see that in a second. And what did we do? So what I did was I put an edict down and I said, right, anyone who comes on the team has to embrace and adopt BIM technology. If you're not prepared to do it, don't bother showing up on day one. You won't get a job, right? Because we wanted 3D technology, and I didn't understand the stuff. I was just looking at the concept and said, guys, just do it. It makes sense to me, but if you're going to do it, everybody's got to do it, okay? And what that helped is you've got to remember, we were going for 6-star sustainability. Never been done in the city of Sydney, the first 6-star high-rise in Sydney. And we also, at the same time as we were doing this, we did one in Brisbane at the same time, which was 123 Albert, which is Rio Tinto's head office. And I committed to these a year before the GFC. Now, in this one, I had a get-out-of-jail clause, and that was that I could stop construction after demolition and excavation for whatever reason I chose, right? And that get-out-of-jail clause happened or was available to me after the GFC, and I still went ahead. And part of the equation that I did in doing the analysis was, okay, it's going to cost me this much to close down, this much to go up, market's riskier, all these sort of things, but I'm going to add $20 million on the keep going equation just because of staff morale, the company image, the whole property market, right, image, because it's important to have leadership and keep going. And so we did that. We kept the BIM, and then obviously facilities management comes with the BIM as well. Strong commitment by us, the entire consultants team, all subcontracts, 32 parties, okay? There's a quick snapshot of the building. If we go to the next one, we'll probably see it a bit more. Oh, it'll come up. Okay, so we appointed Architectus as the BIM manager. It's very important to have one central control. You all know that anyway. Everybody's on the job. And the important thing is get all the ground rules up front. The real issue here is communication. Get everybody communicating. The thing that's very, very important in putting a team together to develop a building is it's great to have a lot of A-grade players. But I've got to tell you, I'm happy to have B-grade players as well, as long as I end up with an A-grade team. That's the most important thing. Forget about having prima donnas. Everybody's got to check their egos at the door. Everybody has a contribution to make. No one has a monopoly on good ideas. So, in fact, you know, the dumbest guy in the room can make the best contribution to a job, and don't forget it. And that's because everyone else in the room, as long as they check their egos at the door, they will listen. And the dumbest idea that gets thrown out will stimulate thought in someone else, which will help grow the idea, improve the idea into something that could be a winner for the team. So don't think because you're the smartest person in the room that you've got it all, right? It's a team effort. I want an A-grade team, not a team of A-grade players. It's nice to have both, but the most important thing is a team that works together and creates an A-grade team. Okay, moving on. Okay, so as I said, not a project necessarily of geniuses. It was not specialist, it was just Rivet, Navisworks, desired the outcome, set the tasks, find a way to deal with the issues, coordination meetings, all that sort of stuff. That's detailed. You guys know how to do it. I, as the owner, don't need to know. I just need to know that I've got capable people dealing with it. Okay, here's very simplistic what I see as an owner. I'm saying, okay, what have I got? I got a 3D model, that sounds great. I can, straight off that, I can go to the plan, I can go here to the study, I can go up here to elevations, I can come up here to takeoffs for the various schedules, and here it can help me in design development, all that sort of stuff. So that's what I saw going in, and I thought, yeah, this is great, let's get on with it. Okay, and then as you go on, you say, okay, well, here we are, here's the plan, and you say, here's a door, and then you can say, okay, well, here's the door here, and here's the takeoff, and all that sort of stuff, and all makes common sense to me, and, you know, you do it once, and then everybody's got the blow-off, and that's great. And then you look at this, and you say, why haven't people done this before? What this is here we are, the mid-rise plant level, and then you've got typical floors above it. Now, for a normal layman like myself, this looks pretty daunting until you realise, okay, what we've got here is we've got big floors that are oval shape. You'll see more of the floor later on. But the dark blue, we actually have a number of forms of air conditioning. We've got normal VAV in the middle, but we've got chill beam all around the outside, right? So you can see the dark blue being the chill beam all around the outside. We got a columnar grid about 9 metres in, and we've got cantilevered floors over there, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So you can see huge complexity, and only through the BIM process do you eliminate a lot of the clashes. Okay, now we go down to the basement, right? And here you can see all the stuff in the basement, and we had everything down there. You've got to remember, we are leading edge sustainability. We're going for tri-generation. We had solar on the roof. We had normal off the grid. We had turbines in the basement for backup. So we had all that sort of stuff. In addition to that, we had water recycling. We were harvesting water off the roof, and we were the first black water sewer. We got a sewer in the building where we were doing black water recycling, and we're using that for the water for the cooling system and all that sort of stuff. So multiple systems, pipes and everything going everywhere. Hate to think it's going in the right and the wrong place. So BIM is the sort of thing that's going to get you there and make sure you don't make the obvious misconnection. So, you know, great system, conceptually designed. This is fabulous. Let's keep going. Okay, here is just a typical, this is on the mid-rise, shows you sort of plant room we're doing. And one of the things with One Bly is it's a glass building. And it's not only glass on the outside, it's glass on the inside. And so as you come up in the glass lifts and you go past the mid-rise, which is glass, it's on display. So what did we do? We designed the plant room so it'll be on display. So there you can see, and that's on display for people as they come up and see it, so it's nice and pretty, but all again done through BIM technology. Okay, now, that's what I thought I was buying. But what I got, and I didn't appreciate, because you guys hadn't educated me at this point in time, is a whole lot of extra things, right? With the technology, what we're able to do is, here we are, we're able to do a whole lot of sensitivities on the stresses on the building, right? On the structure of the building, and as a result, we were able to use recycled steel, right? So an obvious thing for the engineers in the room, but all of a sudden you've got a tool that helps you analyse what's going on, okay? Another area that I got a benefit from. Here we are, here's a typical floor. You can see, here we are, we've got, whoops, hang on, if I can, yeah, okay. We've got columnar grid all the way around. This is 9 metres from there to there. So there's a big overhang there. Then we've got an atrium in the middle of the building. We've got the cores at the back, and we've got a bridge across here. So all of the different structural and loads and all that sort of stuff, hey, it's all over my head. You engineers, you know, get your rocks off on this, you'd love it. But here, all of a sudden, you've got a chance to analyse it as part of the BIM model. So I sit back and say, this must be fabulous to have it all integrated, it's done, you do the work, it's in the system, you know, and everybody gets it on a coordinated fashion. Here we're moving on. Obviously the slides are getting ahead of me here. The next thing is, here we are on the outside of the building. We're able to look at the sunlight and the heat on the outside of the building. And what are the impacts given the location of where we were. So again, it's another tool, another extension of the BIM capability. And when I made the decision to go with this, I had no idea I was going to get this benefit, but it gave us a whole lot of technology and extra stuff, right? So, for instance, here is some of the detail on the window. As you may or may not know, if you don't know the building, it's a double curtain wall. So we've got the inside curtain here, and then this is about 600, this space, and then a second wall there, so double glass facade. And it works, as you would appreciate, just like a thermostat, right? Except instead of being completely sealed in there, the air on each floor comes in at the bottom of every window, goes up, and comes out the top. You can see it just there, it comes out the top. So it all just works. Then what we did is, on the next one, and there you can see here, you can see the gap. And then on the next slide, what we also did on the inside panes, we put blinds. We put sensors on the outside, on every mullion, all the way around the building, individual sensors to detect sunlight. And so every single blind is computer controlled as the sun hits it. So that the blinds, if you look at the building during the day and you just happen to have an hour spare, you'll see the blinds coming down sequentially as the sun moves. So that absolutely no pane of glass will have direct sunlight on it at all, right? going into the building. So that has a huge effect on the air conditioning loads in the building, right? So that was all of what we had going into the building. Okay, so let's talk about the process. Okay, on-site clashes, as you heard on the video, we got rid of over 10,000 before we even started on site, and there were more on the way, and so obviously we didn't detect them all, but we got basically the whole lot. We reduced the waste, increased the quality. Now this is something I hadn't really appreciated when I committed as well, is because of using the BIM technology, the tolerances that you can get away with get refined. So you get a more definitive building, a greater quality finish than you could if you didn't have the BIM technology, because you've got to make allowances and all that sort of stuff. So it was a lot better. Accelerated coordination. The building was immensely complex. You've got to remember we had the atrium in the middle, we had glass roof, we had well, you'll see it all. Just horrendously complex going through the thing. And really, as was said on the video, couldn't have been constructed had we not used the BIM technology, or if it had, we'd still be building, right? So what did we get relative to what I thought we were going to get? So yes, we got reduced clashes. We got reduced cannibalisation. We got reduced materials. We got reduced labour. We got improved productivity, reduced tolerances, and higher quality finishes. What I didn't get that I thought I was going to get is I didn't get a cost saving. And the reason is we were early on in the pace. We went to tenders with a number of builders, and none of them had embraced this technology. We were ahead of the builders, and we told them to come on board and said, trust us, you're going to get a benefit, but they priced it without giving us the benefit, right? So they got whatever the benefit was. Notwithstanding that, on this particular job, we used Grocon. And you've got to remember, we went through the GFC, and so they had a number of pricing challenges, the complexity of the whole thing. And I've got to tell you, Grocon did an absolutely stunning job. First class, I'd use them in a blink. The deal I had with Daniel Grollo is we signed a contract, we shook hands, and I said to Daniel, listen, as far as I'm concerned, I'm never going to look at that contract. The day I ever have to look at that contract, you and I have a major problem. There's a phone there if we've got a problem. It's fixed price. See you at the opening. And to his word and to my word, that's how it went. $300 million. The project is an $800 million deal. The construction was roughly $300 million. Not one variation and on time. And hats off to Grocon. Stunning job. They committed the team. They had to put extra labour on at the end of the job to get it done. I can't say enough about Grocon. That's not to say there aren't other builders in town. But I had a great experience. So what did we get? First, CBD, high-rise 6-star in Sydney, integrated building and tenancy model, integrated building management system, and lower operating costs. As a result of putting this in, we're now able to manage our building. We're now able to get reduced operating costs going forward. Now, having sat there last night, and now that I'm retired, I can become an information sponge. I just love going to meetings and just listening to people. And I travel the world looking at different investment opportunities, and I'm looking at stem cells, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at that. And I go, even like last night, I go to the meeting, and the guys are talking about what they're doing, and I'm sitting there, this is stunning. What I hadn't realised, and we didn't use it as much, well, they may have used part of it behind the scenes, didn't tell me about it, I was only the CEO. The things that they're now doing is, you use this now in all the procurement process, right? So you just extend your BIM model through, you go straight through. How fabulous is that? All of a sudden, all this data comes through and all that, and that's going to even more facilitate the ongoing management of the building. The other thing is that I don't think we did, is the whole using the BIM model to manage the timeline. I was talking to the guys last night, and they're saying, well, now that we've got the model, we can do a more detailed analysis of your scheduling process. So what you think is your timeline and your normal thing is if you do it this different way, we can take 8 weeks off your craneage time. And I'm thinking, crikey, all that money I could have saved, right? And, hey, we were pioneers. We didn't know it all. Whoever builds today is still not going to know it all. That's one of the beauties about being in this world is technology is changing. Don't worry about it. do what you can today and know tomorrow you'll be able to improve. It's just so exciting, right? So that was one BLI, and here's what we achieved. Environmentally sustainable building. We had 6-star Green Star, 40% recycled concrete, 90% steel, yada yada, timber, solar cooling, trigen, water, black water, rainwater, sewer mining, we've got a naturally ventilated atrium all the way up. We've got louvers, we've got these huge doors that come up at the ground floor. So you've got ventilation there, you've got ventilation all up through the side core there, double skin facade, we've got a childcare centre down the bottom. You know, the whole works and jerks. I am incredibly proud. The only thing I'm really, really ticked off about, I was twice president of the Property Council. My successor as the president of the Property Council. This was the most stunning building on the horizon, and we didn't win the award last year because Lend-Lease came along at Darling Harbour with Commonwealth Bank and they knocked me off the perch. But notwithstanding that, they did a great job too. So anyway, and that's one of the beauties about what we're doing here. We are in a world where we're competing like crazy, but we're all doing things that collectively help the knowledge base of all of us to improve, right? And so collectively we can all go forward. And that was one of the joys I had at PCA, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, so what of the future? So, one, build on the past achievements. Don't just sit there and say we're going to repeat what we did. Look at what we did and say, what can we learn from what we did and how can we improve upon it? Embrace technological change. Don't sit back and rest on your laurels. You'll get knocked off at the perch, right? Just keep thinking about ways to improve. As I said, no one has a monopoly on good ideas. Listen to everyone, consolidate and make a call. Next thing is, when I was president of the PCA, one of the things we do is we benchmark buildings. So we benchmark, for instance, commercial buildings. So we've got standards that basically says, how can I assess whether a building is A, B or C grade or whatever? And you've got all these different criteria. I'm currently, for my sins, I'm now the chairman of a similar committee within PCA doing the same thing in industrial properties, and we hope that one will get launched before Christmas, so there'll be a grading system in industrial properties. I would encourage you as an organisation and as participants to give up some of your time to help the industry to develop commonality of standards, terminology, and get it all on a level playing field so that the consumers can understand it. I, as an owner, I want to be able to have a system where I can have this system talk to another building. I want to have I've got a portfolio of properties, or I did have, and I want to be able to have a common system across them all. So ideally, I'd like to have a central control post for all of my portfolio. I'd also like to have systems such that if I buy or sell properties, I can just bring them in and connect them up and away I go. So I don't want to have beta and VHS, you know? And I don't know what your technology is. I'm just telling you the concepts, right? I want to make sure that as an owner, everything we do can talk and communicate and get the efficiencies and the economies of scale of operating. Now, here's the biggie. I don't think building owners know what's out there and what's available. Now, maybe I was the dumbest guy in the room, I don't know, but certainly I feel I've learned a lot, right? And my gut feel is that building owners could also learn a lot. Now, where I sit, I think there are 3 access points to building owners. One is the CEOs, one is the development guys, and one is the FM guys. They're all important in the decision makers. The CEO, right, whether it be he or her, just needs to understand the rough concepts, not the detail, and needs to know that it's a value proposition and it's going to create value. Because what's in it for us is all we care about, or not all we care about, but the main thing we care about is that we have an asset that is going to grow in value, be attractive to our tenants, and therefore get higher rents, okay? And it'll only get higher rents if we can demonstrate that it's got all the sustainability features, that the operating costs are being managed in a way that we can drive them down to be the low-cost operating system in the country. So it's very, very important from a building owner's point of view. From the development manager's point of view, he wants to know that you're fully integrated, that you've got the 3D technology, that you're using it across the procurement platform, that you're using it on the scheduling for the timeline functions, all of those issues, that you're getting rid of all your clashes, all the obvious stuff. And then from your facilities management guy, they need to know that they're going to be able to manage the system efficiently. Talking last night, and you saw it earlier in the previous session, where you just get your iPad or whatever pad you've got, you look up and you say, okay, well, that integrates with the system, and I can see behind that ceiling tile there, you know, this particular piece of equipment's up there, and that's where the problem is, and we'll just pull out that one tile and we're away to the races. And so that saves time, efficiency, all that sort of stuff. And it is just so exciting, the possibilities. But they're your 3 access points that you've got to educate. I mentioned to the guys last night, I'm prepared to help the industry and access some of those. I think the obvious thing is through PCA, but there are other avenues, and that's one of the things. On a personal note, I have got a number of boards. I'm a consultant on a couple of things. I travel the world a lot. I love travel. I encourage everyone to have their own bucket list. You're never too young to start your bucket list and start knocking it off. And I'm also looking at different sorts of investments, and one of which I'm looking at, which I'm really excited about because I think it's going to change your life, hopefully, is printed lighting technology. So all of a sudden we're going to end up with a piece of paper that's got a light on it. I've seen it work, and you put it up, you don't need a lighting box, it's just there, it'll be part of the grid, and away we go. But it's in development stage, it'll be launched shortly. But what that just says is, be open to new ideas. Don't be afraid. Get on with it, collaborate, check your egos at the door. We're all in it together. It's a great opportunity, it's a great world, and I thank you for the contribution you made to help me create One Bly. I'm so proud of what we have. We could have done it better, but you can always do everything better. But that's the joy of the world. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen.